Hi guys, so today I decided to finally film my study abroad experience video. If you guys didn't know, I studied abroad in Barcelona, Spain this past summer, and it was the most incredible experience of my life. So I wanted to film a video all about my experience, how I applied, what I did, all that stuff. And I'm sorry it's taken me so long to film it. I studied abroad in June until August, and it's already March. So it's been quite a while. Last semester I was kind of going through some personal issues and I just couldn't find the motivation to film a video like this. So I wanted to wait until I had time to process everything and like get back into my lifestyle here at Berkeley. I kind of have like a script written out because I tried filming this a while ago and I was just all over the place, so I figured a script would make it a lot easier and shorter. Anyway, let's get started with the video. I'm going to talk about the application process, so what I did to apply for the program, how I went about everything and getting everything organized before flying out to Spain. I'll talk about like my financial situation and how I funded the trip, the program itself, like what classes I took, and what I thought of the overall experience. So first and foremost, I have always known that I wanted to study abroad. Coming into college, I knew that if I were to do one thing during my college career, it would have to be studying abroad. Like, I love traveling, I love seeing new places, meeting new people. So coming into Cal, I was like, okay, I'm gonna study abroad at some point during my college career. I just didn't know exactly when. So originally I planned on studying abroad my fall semester of junior year. I was going through the process of applying and all that stuff, but then it became increasingly difficult to apply when I had to consider finding a subletter for my apartment. If you guys didn't know, I live with my boyfriend, so we share a room, and finding a subletter would be impossible for that situation. So I decided that studying abroad over the summer, when I could just pay my rent for the amount of time that I was gone, would be a lot easier than like being gone for a whole semester and trying to find someone to subsidize the costs or take my spot in the apartment. So it just wasn't feasible for me to study abroad that fall. So I kind of just let it slip away from my mind for a little bit, and then come spring semester of my junior year, I started looking into programs for the summer. I attended a study abroad fair here at Cal that introduced a bunch of different programs to me. I knew that I wanted to study abroad in Europe. I've been to Asia before, so I wanted to go somewhere new. So I spent a lot of time looking into programs that related to my major, sustainable environmental design and city planning, and programs that were also based in Europe. I eventually came across the UC Davis Summer Abroad program for housing and urbanism in Barcelona, Spain. I instantly fell in love with the program for two reasons. One, it would take me to Barcelona, Spain, a city that I've always wanted to go to ever since watching the Cheetah Girls 2. And then number two, the program itself seemed really interesting and also applicable to what I am studying here at Cal. So then I decided to go ahead and apply for this program. It was an online application, pretty simple. I think I started applying for it in January. If I remember correctly, the UC Davis summer program application is comprised of two parts. The first part is just general information pertaining to my education, my interests, my major, all that stuff. And then the second part was an essay about why I wanted to study abroad and how I think it would benefit my career and my education in the future. Before actually completing my application, I had to go ahead and renew my passport. My passport had expired. I don't remember the last time I used it. I think it was when I traveled to China, like junior year of high school. So it's been quite a while since I last traveled abroad. Reapplying for my passport was like the most difficult part of the application process. I remember having to go to the post office like multiple times to get everything situated. It was also really expensive. I believe I paid like $150 total to renew my passport, so that was a pretty expensive part of the process, but I got everything done related to my passport in February, and then I was able to submit my application after receiving my new passport. And then also during the application process, I had to confirm with the financial aid office that I was studying abroad and that I would receive financial aid for the courses that I would be taking abroad. And since it is a UC, and UC Berkeley is also a UC, financial aid is easily transferable between UC schools. I didn't have to worry about that. The only thing I had to worry about was paying for housing and of course like food and other necessities. So I had to apply for a Parent Plus loan. I believe I applied for a $5,000 Parent Plus loan because classes were around $3,000 and UC Berkeley covered that. And then housing was around $3,000 too. The Parent Plus loan would cover that, as well as give me some money to spend while I was abroad because food was not covered by the program. Applying for the Parent Plus loan was a bit difficult too because it's a loan that has to be taken out by your parent, not by you. But I'm currently paying that back now with my own money. My mom doesn't have to worry about that. Not necessarily an issue that I ran into was having to apply as a UC Davis student for this summer. So I had to like make my own portal account, get my own UC Davis email address. And that was kind of difficult because I have so many accounts related to Berkeley. Having another one just made everything more complicated. Anything that I did for the program had to be done through UC Davis email or UC Davis portal. I think I submitted my application at the end of February, the beginning of March, but the deadline was actually the beginning of April. So I had a lot of time to sort of fix anything if I needed to. That's why I'm also filming filming this video right now because I think it's the prime time for people to start applying for summer abroad programs or fall semester programs. And then I found out I was accepted into the program a couple of weeks later. I received an email and they sent me the application for the enrollment process, because not only did you have to complete the initial application, you also had to complete like a post-enrollment application. And that was just like more detailed information about myself, what I'm particularly interested in the program, just sort of introducing myself to my professors. I also applied for a couple of scholarships and I received one for $500 through the UC Davis Summer Abroad program, so that was really helpful. Another thing is that with these study abroad programs, you have to buy your own plane ticket, so I purchased a round-trip plane ticket as soon as I found out that I was accepted into the program. And then I also joined the program's Facebook page. I think it was created by my professors. That was also super helpful because I was able to communicate with students prior to taking my flight, and I found out that two students, Marissa and Jose, would be taking the same flight as me, so I got to meet up with them right before our flight and we landed together. I'm going to talk about what happened as soon as I got there, whole duration of the program, what I did, what classes I took. In case you guys didn't know, I did attend EDC Las Vegas from June 15th until the morning of the 19th, and my flight for Barcelona, Spain was on the afternoon of the 20th. I was dropped off at the Oakland airport, and there I met Jose and Marissa, the two people I'd communicated with over Facebook. We were all separated during the flight, but that was okay because we would all be landing in the same place anyway. I think it was like a 12.5-hour flight. Not too bad. I've been on like 16 or 17-hour flights to Asia. I was pretty used to it. I just watched a ton of movies. And then we arrived on the 21st on a Wednesday afternoon. The program actually didn't start until that weekend, so we had a couple of days to get acclimated to the city, explore and all that stuff. And we ended up booking an Airbnb in Sants, which is a neighborhood in Barcelona, and we met up with our friend Leslie. I met her through Jose and Marissa, and we all ended up getting along super well. I'm so glad that I had those first couple days to get to know them. We officially checked into the dorms on that Saturday. We stayed in the Resa dorms. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but I think it's pretty common for a lot of UC students to stay in those dorms when they're studying abroad in Spain. I got put into this apartment style dorm, kind of like a studio layout. There was a little kitchenette, dining room table, two little like sofa seats, two beds, two end tables, a really nice bathroom. It was actually a newly renovated dorm. I was put in a room with my roommate Francesca, and we ended up getting along super well. She was so cool, and it was really nice to have a good roommate because it made the experience that much better. Ooh, and then we also had our own balcony with a really amazing view of the beach. There was like a soccer field. It was so pretty. If you guys haven't checked out my study abroad compilation video, I'll leave it linked down below. Clips of my whole experience there, so you should definitely check it out. I included clips of my dorm, and you can see the view in that video. The dorm building was located in Barceloneta, which is a beach neighborhood in Barcelona. It was really close to the downtown area and a lot of tourist hotspots, and there were a lot of clubs like along the strip. So after moving in that Saturday, the program officially began the next day on Sunday. I had to take two like introductory Spanish classes. I had pretty much lost all of my knowledge of Spanish since coming to college, so that was really helpful. I believe there were 30 of us enrolled in the program. Professors were David and Rob, and our assistant instructor was Carlos, who was actually from Spain, so he acted as like our personal tour guide throughout the program. All three instructors were so amazing. Like, I couldn't have asked for anyone better to teach us and to guide us through Spain. They were super easy to get along with and made the program that much more fun. Like, I seriously had the best time with them. So the program was only 4 weeks long. It was called Housing and Urbanism in Barcelona, Spain. It was split into two academic paths, the Community and Regional Development path and the Landscape Architecture path. Because I have a minor in city planning, I chose to go the Community and Regional Development route because I thought that that would better fit what I've learned so far here at Cal. And even though we had like two different paths, we ended up pretty much doing the same things. I don't think there was any difference in like the curriculum of the course. So week one covered the history of urbanism in Barcelona. So we learned about Ildefonseda's grid plan for Barcelona, as well as took a ton of trips throughout the city just to get to know the history and the architectural style, and just got to know the people and the culture. And then week two focused on 4 specific case studies: Can Batlló, Bellvitge, Superias, and St. Genís, all of which offered insight into the topics of community development and urban design. We took field trips to each location and had the opportunity to meet with actual directors, planners, and designers for each project. And then week 3 focused on themes of housing policy, demographics, and economics. So we touched upon issues with the case studies as well as issues throughout the city in regards to like tourism, immigration. And then finally in week 4 we were put into teams of 8 students to investigate each of the case studies. So I was put in the Superias group. So we conducted interviews with locals and professionals, as well as used like visual observation methods, mapping and researching the actual location so we could get a better look at the different steps in the processes towards actually implementing these projects. For the final project, we had to come up with a presentation and actually propose design interventions for the site website based on the needs and concerns of the people we interviewed. We were split into groups based on our skills and our majors. I do have to mention that for this program, we did not need to be fluent in Spanish. We didn't actually have to know Spanish in order to learn the curriculum. But anyway, back to the project. We had to come up with like a 45-minute presentation pertaining to the case study and present it to our class, our professors, as well as some guest critics. It was a pretty intimidating project. I'd never done a presentation that long before, but I had a really good group and we all got along really well. It was definitely a memorable experience for me education-wise. I learned so much through the process and it felt like I was participating in something that would actually give me real work experience. Also, with our final project, we had to write a 5 to 7 page retrospective paper just on our experience throughout the program and how we can take what we have learned and apply it to a future career path. And throughout the program, we had daily readings and reading responses. It wasn't too bad. I remember just having to write like a question or a comment on the reading that we did for that night and then post it before class the next day. And we were never stuck in a lecture hall for more than like 2 hours at a time. I think we only went to the same place for lecture like 3 or 4 times. Classes just took place throughout the city, in city halls, in random studios. The city was our classroom and that was the best part of the experience. I hate being stuck in a lecture hall. That's another reason why I decided to study abroad, because I really don't like sitting in a lecture hall for too long and being stuck copying notes from a presentation slide. I love like being out there and exploring and experiencing everything for myself. I think that's the best way to learn, and the program definitely gave me that opportunity and I'm so grateful for it because I felt like I learned so much more in just a span of 4 weeks than I have in my 4 years here at Cal. We also had to keep like a daily sketchbook / journal. I have mine here. Every day we wrote our class notes in these, as well as a daily reflection of what we did throughout the day, our thoughts, our experiences, our feelings. This is what mine looks like. I put a Barcelona sticker on here. It's just a moleskin journal. I bought this in Spain at the Picasso Museum. Our journals were collected after the first week just to make sure that we were following directions, and then after that they weren't submitted again until the last week, and our professors just made sure that we were reflecting every day. They didn't want this to be a tedious task for us to do every day. They wanted us to fully reflect on our thoughts and experiences throughout the program, so I think that this was super helpful to have, because without being assigned this, I probably wouldn't have kept an actual journal, like a written journal. I like to document my experiences through photographs and videos. I think that this was a really cool way for me to document the experience. So yeah, I just kept like a lot of mementos, tickets. This is like, I think, a water bottle label, and I just like left little comments. I kept like napkins, business cards, wrote a lot of notes. Oh, this is my ticket from the Marshmallow show I went to at Opium nightclub, which was super fun. My Metro pass. This makes me so sad looking through it. Disney pass. It was our first visit to Disney Paris. I'll get into that in a little bit. It was so nice to keep a journal because I can always look back to this and also have all of my notes from the program. It's super convenient for me to look back on. I miss it so much. But anyway, if you guys are traveling, even if it's not through study abroad program, I would highly recommend keeping a journal. Now I'm gonna go into the other aspects of the study abroad program, which is like my weekend experiences and what I did outside of classes. So we technically only had class on the weekdays, which I was pretty surprised about. I thought that since the program was only 4 weeks long, we would have class every single day to get the most information in, but we actually had weekends off. A couple weekends we did have class field trips, like weekend trips, but other weekends we did have like free time to explore wherever we wanted to go in Europe. Outside of like class time, my most memorable experience during the first week was probably the class bike ride we took throughout the city. We rode along the beach and through the Olympic Village. Being on a bike and being able to ride through the city freely was like a totally different experience, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to do that, because I probably wouldn't have done it if I was just exploring Spain on my own. And then that first weekend we took a class trip to Girona and Tossa del Mar. They were so beautiful. We took a day trip to Girona, which was actually part of the set in Game of Thrones, and then we took a bus ride to Tossa del Mar, which is just like a small coastal town at the edge of Spain, and it was so cute. We ended up renting out like a whole hostel. It was like a pretty tiny hostel, so it was just our class that was staying at the hostel. The owners were the sweetest people ever. They made us delicious breakfast every single day, and they had a really cute rooftop deck, and we would all just like have dinner up there. They also taught us how to make paella, which was really cool. It actually reminded me of Greece because there were like cobblestone paths and all the buildings were white. The beach was absolutely beautiful. The Mediterranean Sea, guys, is seriously the most beautiful body of water I've ever seen. And I remember taking like a really long hike. We did it in sandals because I was not expecting to take a hike, but we ended up finding a really cute cove and like spending the whole day at the beach, and I got really tan. Such a fun weekend trip, and I'm so glad I got to experience it with my entire class. And then during the second week, my friends and I went to see Marshmallow at the Opium nightclub, which was quite an experience. It was actually my first time ever at a nightclub since turning 21. When I saw that Marshmello was gonna be in Barcelona the time that I was there, I convinced a bunch of my friends to go, and like a big group of us went, and we stayed there until like 3 or 4 in the morning, and we actually had a really long day the next day in class, so it was tough, but it was really cool to see Marshmello outside of the US. So then the next day we ended up having to get up really early, and we took a field trip to Parkway, which is the iconic park that's also seen in the Cheetah Girls 2. So I was so excited for that opportunity because the main reason why I wanted to go to Barcelona was because of the Cheetah Girls 2. The park is absolutely beautiful. And then we ended up going up to, I think they're called the bunkers, I don't remember, but it's like the very top of the city on this like cliff basically, and we just had like the most beautiful view of the city, and it was so fun. We ate like empanadas, just watched the sun go down, and then ended up walking back and taking the metro together, and it was just such a wholesome experience. I freaking love that day. And then that weekend, actually, we ended up having the weekend to ourselves. I think it was the weekend of like July 4th. That's why we had like a 3 or 4 day weekend off. After that really long day exploring Parkway, my friends and I actually had to pack up and take a flight to Paris at 3 in the morning. So we were pretty exhausted. Me, Marissa, Leslie, Jose, Izani, and Sandra all decided to go to Paris for our weekend off. Round trip ticket to Paris, 150 euros. Some other groups of students went to like Ibiza, Madrid, Amsterdam, but we wanted to go to Paris. Paris has always been one of my dream destinations, so when my friend Leslie suggested that we go, I immediately hopped on that. I was so excited to go. And we stayed at a cute Airbnb. That whole day we just explored the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, Champs-Élysées, I think that's how you pronounce it. So we had Friday off, and then that's when we were in Paris. And then that Saturday we decided to go to Euro Disney. We went to the Disneyland in Paris, and I hadn't been to Disneyland I think since senior year of high school, so I was really excited to go. I love Disney, we all love Disney. We spent that morning just shopping in Paris, and then we took the metro to Disneyland. When we got there, the park was so clean, you guys, and not nearly as crowded as the one in LA. The lines are really short. We got to explore and ride every single ride that we wanted to. The fireworks show was seriously one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen in my life. They were playing like the clips and the songs from Disney movies. It was cool to hear the songs in French. Such a heartwarming experience, and I loved being there with everyone. Then the next day was our last day, that Sunday, and we just spent the day exploring. We were like at the front of the Louvre, but we didn't get to go in because we heard that you need like a whole day to actually see everything in the Louvre, and we didn't want to waste our money if we weren't able to see everything that we wanted to. So we just spent the day exploring the city, shopping a bit, and then we had a flight that night back to Spain. It was one of the most unforgettable weekends. Our third weekend in the program, we also had another weekend off. Most people left again to go explore Europe. I decided to stay with a couple of my friends at the dorms just because we didn't feel like spending more money, and we just wanted to explore Barcelona on our own. Some people went to hike the Pyrenees. We were gonna do that, but I did not have the right shoes for that. Also felt like I wasn't in the right physical condition to do that. We ended up going to Mount Tibidabo, and then we also visited the Catalan Art Museum, and I just spent that weekend relaxing. I felt like I needed to because at that point students started dropping like flies and getting sick because they were so exhausted from doing all like the partying. And our last week we took a class field trip to the Sagrada Famlia. Tickets were provided by the program. Seriously, one of the most beautiful churches in the world. I was literally brought to tears. Like, it was so incredible to see in person. I'm like tearing up just thinking about it right now. But we got to go inside, and then we took an elevator to the top and walked down. To see the city from that perspective was unforgettable. There are no words to describe how beautiful it is in person, and it's not even done yet, which is crazy. That was like the last class field trip we took, and then that Friday during the 4th week we had our final presentations, final dinner, which was really sad. That last night I got pretty drunk. I explored the city with my friends, and we ended up staying out until like 3 a.m. even though we had to check out at 10 a.m. the next day. I had to pack up everything, and then my dad and my stepmom actually flew out from China to meet me in Spain so we could spend 2 weeks just exploring the country. I'm so glad that they did that because I was not ready to leave. I was so sad that the program was ending and that I was leaving my friends. I think the program ended officially like July 21st if I remember correctly. I moved out of the dorm and into an Airbnb with my dad and my stepmom. After the program ended, I spent 2 weeks just exploring Spain with my dad and my stepmom. We also went to Portugal, so I showed my dad and my stepmom all of Barcelona. Also took them to Tosa. It was really cool to be like the tour guide this time. At that point I had like picked up a lot of the Spanish that I had lost in the past couple of years. I was even giving instructions to people in Spanish, which was really cool. It's weird because like in Spain I had like basically become fluent in Spanish, and as soon as I got back I forgot everything. It just all flew out of my mind. We took a train to Madrid, stayed there for a few days, visited Segovia, and then we took an overnight train to Lisbon, Portugal, where we explored Sintra, Cascais, and Cabo de Roca. Portugal, you guys, is absolutely beautiful. The people are so sweet. The nicest people you'll ever meet. Culture is just amazing. After staying a couple of days in Portugal, we went back to Spain, to Sevilla, and Sevilla was absolutely beautiful. From there, we were actually picked up by a tour guide who just happened to be the most beautiful man I had ever seen in my entire life. This is a funny story. So I knew that we were gonna be picked up by a tour guide. My dad had hired him. Like 20 minutes before we were picked up, my dad's like, "Hey Kel, I heard that this Jose guy is pretty handsome. You should be prepared." And I was just thinking to myself, my dad's just playing around with me, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then as soon as he stepped out of that car, you guys, my jaw dropped. He took my breath away. I wish I had good pictures with him. I was trying to get a picture with him at the end of the trip, but I didn't want to embarrass him because I feel like he probably gets that a lot. I could tell that a lot of women were looking at him because he's that beautiful, you guys. He looked like a Greek god or something. He was so beautiful, man bun, the accent, tan skin. I was seriously in love. Sorry, Devin, but if I were living in Spain, I'd be married to him. He was so smart and so knowledgeable about Spain's history and culture. He took us on a day trip to Ronda and then drove us to Granada. Granada was one of our last destinations, and it is seriously one of the most beautiful cities in Spain. This was probably the hottest city we traveled to the entire trip. It kind of reminded me of Tosa in the sense that the buildings were all white, there were cobblestone paths, but it was super hilly. It's not common for Spanish apartment buildings to have any sort of elevators, so I had to lug my suitcase, which was like 50 pounds, up these hills and up flights of stairs, and it was pretty miserable. We stayed at the prettiest Airbnb in Granada. It had perfect view of the Alhambra, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, I believe. I remember one night my dad and I just spent like 2 or 3 hours sipping on some cava and talking about pretty much everything, and it was definitely one of the most memorable parts of the trip. Our last full day in Spain, we took a tour of the Alhambra. The architecture is incredible. And then we had to take a bus ride to Malaga, which was our last stop of the trip. And then that night, we just had like our final dinner in Spain, had paella, sangria. At like 4 or 5 in the morning, we had to get to the airport and take a flight back to Barcelona, where I would take another flight back to Oakland. The flight back was pretty miserable. It was, again, 12.5 hours long, but I did not get 1 wink of sleep the entire time. I just watched movies, so I was exhausted by the time I landed and super jet lagged. My jet lag was terrible for like a whole week straight. I would go to bed at like 4 or 5 p.m, wake up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I did end up getting a little depressed when I came back just because I missed the experience so much and I missed the people. Before leaving, I felt stuck here at Berkeley. I felt like I wasn't doing as much as I could or learning as much as I could, and so studying abroad was like that light at the end of the tunnel that would allow me to figure out who I am as a person. And so when I came back, I kind of felt like I was stuck again. It was really hard for me to find like happiness in the things that I used to, so that's why I think it's taken me so long to film this video, because I was pretty miserable. Not that I was unhappy being back with like my friends and family and being back at a school that I love so much. I think it was just something with myself and me realizing that I wanted to do more with my life, and I still do, but it definitely took me a couple months to like, figure out where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do in the future. So that was a pretty tough time in my life. I didn't really know exactly what was wrong with me. I just knew that I didn't feel like myself, even though I had changed so much. In the trip, I had become like a more independent person, better learner, better traveler. I just didn't feel like myself, and it was really tough for me and the people around me, but you know what? I'm better now, and I'm just so excited for what the future holds for me. Anyway, I know this has been a really long video. I just want to say that I had the time of my life studying abroad this past summer, and I wish I would have done it for an entire semester, 4 weeks, and then the 2 weeks after is just not enough time. But I learned so much, and I think I changed significantly as a person. Everyone I know likes to joke that Spain changed me, and honestly it did. I've become a better person in more ways than one. I think I'm stronger and more independent, and I've also developed a lot of skills and knowledge that I can apply to my career, so I think it did change me for the better, and I'm really happy that it did, because it was something that I needed at that point in my life. And I also got to meet some of the greatest people I know. I'm still in contact with them. We actually had a reunion in October, and then a couple of them visited me for my birthday in January, and then I am going to visit again in April. So I'm so glad that I have these friendships that I know will last for a lifetime. If you guys are thinking about studying abroad, I highly recommend that you just go ahead and do it. It was seriously the best decision I ever made for myself, and I think that everybody should get that experience, because you definitely won't regret it. It was seriously life-changing, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. If you guys want me to film any other study abroad related videos, please let me know down below. I'm thinking of filming like a 10 tips for studying abroad, packing, that kind of stuff. Just let me know down below. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and check us out on Twitter and Instagram at JQVideo8. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.